Hey, what's up you guys? Today we are doing another bike impressions down here at North Auckland Harley Davidson. They very kindly loaned me this Nightster. Now, the Nightster is a relatively new model to Harley Davidson. It's got the new Revolution Max engine, which is a 975. So I'm guessing that this is going to appeal to people that used to be interested in the Sportster. So why don't we just take it for a ride? The very first thing to notice is there are a lot more buttons than we are used to. So we've got all of our media controls here, all of our controls for this unit, which I'll show you in a sec. Cruise control is standard. We've got a Euro style indicator setup, and and then instead of the usual Harley that we're all used to, we've got a little thing up here, and then we've got this awesome setup in here. This is cool because it can do quite a lot. You can connect it to your audio, your phone, all of that sort of thing. You can even hit a button here and ask to talk to your Siri or your Alexa or whatever it is that you use. But yeah, first impressions, it feels quite light, but it doesn't feel tiny. I don't feel like this is too small for me. But, oh, it is quite narrow. Actually, why don't we go left first? This isn't as small as I thought it was going to be. It's definitely not a big Harley, but it's not tiny. It's got some nice wide bars on it. Oh, she's light. Oh, she's very light. I like that. The bars are actually nice and wide too. I always prefer a wider bar, and this is fine. Like, the position in general isn't bad, especially if you like your sort of bobbery style sporty bikes. What have we got here? We've got shower suspension, we've got Brembo brakes. As I said, we've got that 975 Revolution Max engine, which is the new Harley Davidson engine. Rev Max is what is the replacement for the Milwaukee 8, I think. I don't know. I think most of the Softails and the big cruisers are going to keep the are going to keep the Milwaukee 8 for now. Actually, I should probably ask more questions before I start just jumping on bikes and going like, oh, that's cool, and then I'd be able to give you useful information. Do I look cool? Oh, I don't look as cool as on my bike, but I still look pretty cool. Maybe a lot of that's just me, you know. I think my feet are a little bit too big for these controls with my stupid clown feet, because I have a couple of times not made it all the way to second. Get off your phone! In terms of rideability, this is so easy. It's got a decent sized front wheel. I'm assuming that's a 20 or a 21, which is going to be great for touring, and for a big wheel it tips in really easily, so really can't complain about that. So something that this does have, which is a bit of a sign of the times, is it's got things like obviously traction control, which we can turn off at any time, but it's also got like an anti-wheelie function, which, I mean, I haven't tried yet, but I don't know if that's going to be an issue. Hello, Mr. Ducati. But yeah, in terms of the exhaust, now my guy Mike there tells me that there are some exhaust options. I don't know what this sounds like, this engine, with a decent exhaust on it, because this is effectively a press bike. It's owned by Harley Davidson New Zealand, not the dealership, so they haven't modified this at all. It's completely stock, which is fine. But what I don't know is, normally with those guys they would throw an exhaust on it, so that, because it's a very common thing to do with the Harley guys, is you'll throw an exhaust on it and say, yep, I want it to sound good, and so they will do that at the dealership for their demo bikes, which is a really good way to go. Do I look cool? Do I look cool? I mean, I always look cool. Thank you for that comment. Now there are a couple of modes that I was told about. Being a modern bike, you've got things like rain mode, which is nice, and there's also a sport mode, which I think we should definitely try out. I think it would be rude not to, which is just this button right there. And now we're in a sport mode. Oh, hello, that made a difference. I just really hope that when I can hear a good exhaust on this bike, that it matches. Like, the thing is, a lot of the Harley purists are going for the older bikes, the Dyners, stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I love the Dyners. I was actually going to get a Dyna, but then my bike turned up and I was like, yep, I'll have that. But I think one of those things is a lot of people that like their Harleys, they want it to be a little bit hot rod feeling, a little bit older, classic feeling, which you can do with the modern bikes. Like my bike, it still feels and rides and sounds like a Harley Davidson should. And I just feel like these are going to be a little, at the moment, having just been just out of the box, it feels a little bit sewing machine just from that engine, but like it goes good, and I just bet that it's going to sound decent too. So I'll just chuck this bike into rain mode again, using that selector switch there, because it is raining and the ground is wet. And where the hell am I going? Don't know. But as soon as I chopped it over into rain mode, it felt like I kicked it in the balls, which is probably exactly what you want for a rain mode. The horsepower on this was in the mid-90s, I think, 96 maybe, which is not to be sneezed at. And also, putting all that down to one rear tyre in the wet is probably going to be questionable, which is why we have these traction controls and things like that. Now, being able to lay that power down with a bit of confidence with the rain mode, I think is a good thing. I think given that this is likely to be someone's first Harley, or maybe someone who's just not super confident, because it is a very entry-level Harley, that it's one of those things that you're going to be able to not be worried about. I think that's the thing. I think this inspires a lot of confidence, and it's got a lot of features on it that are going to make it really easy for a first-time rider or a newbie rider. Well, once you've got off your learners and you're on your first big bike, it's going to be something that's not going to be a handful unless you want it to be. And I guess that's nice actually, because this is a bike that I guess you could grow with, in the sense of over time you decide you want more power, you can do that. You want more sound, you can do that. There is a lot that you can do on this display. I think the display is really good. Like, I've got a tinted visor and sunglasses on in the rain, don't ask me why, and I can still see it really well. And then we can still scroll through all the menus, we can do our music, mess with the bike, mess with our settings, all that sort of thing, which I think is quite neat. The undertone of that exhaust sounds like it's going to be quite good actually. Just decelling down the hill there, it sounded like it's got some balls to it. I'm going to assume that that tank range is going to be plus 200, maybe 250-ish, which is good for New Zealand. A lot of people in New Zealand complain about range and fuel tank size and stuff like that. Reality is where we live, there is always a gas station within 100, 150k, pretty much everywhere in the country. So you don't have to worry too much about that. And fuck me, here comes the rain. So, I mean, it looks like it's a Harley Davidson. I mean, we've got the nice big V-twin. It does have these covers on it, which kind of makes it a little bit more futuristic. But I mean, that looks like, to me, that looks at quick glance like a sporty, or somewhere between a sporty and a Softail, which is pretty cool. Okay, after a quick little break from that rain, we are ready to take off again. I just want to have a look. And so it's got a nice modern headlight, which is I assume that would be very easy to see in shitty weather. Now, oh lovely, wet seat, that's alright, wet butt, but yeah, LEDs are nice. I upgraded my headlights to all of my lights to LED, makes a big difference. what's interesting about this bike, and I know a lot of the Harley purists are going to have their opinions on this, because it does look more modern, but I think it looks classic enough that most people are going to be pretty happy with it. You know, like the engine's got these big covers on it, which is fine, like it still looks like an engine. I think the biggest thing for me with a bike like this is always the sound, which I'm told is very easily fixed by just throwing on a decent system. So that sport mode does make a good difference actually. I keep doing this thing with my feet where I think like I can't decide if I want to be on a sports bike and be on my balls of my feet, or be on a cruiser and be on the arches of my feet. I mean, I'm used to an engine basically twice the size, and this is, that'll get up and play, you know. I like that. I'm not going to win many races, but see, I don't know how many of you guys have ridden with people with Sportsters, but our mate Peanut, because he's got a peanut tank, doesn't get invited all the time, and the reason that is twofold. First of all, he's a bit slow, but more importantly is range anxiety, which is often an issue with electric cars. But in this essence, the issue is because the older Sporty only had a very small tank. I think it's about 6 or 7 litres. It's not a lot. You're sort of, depending on what you've done to your engine and whatnot, you're looking at 150k to a tank. Now my bike will do about 300 depending on how I'm riding, which I would describe usually as spirited. So this is saying 135 at just over half a tank. Now it is also only a small engine, so it's going to be a bit more efficient, and it's not cammed, it's anything like that. But the other thing I think that's really important about this bike is it's going to keep up with anybody else on the road, which something with pack riding is a lot of the time people will get a bit anxious about, will this bike keep up with everybody that I want to ride with? I mean, partly that depends on who you're riding with, but more importantly, can the bike do it? Yeah, like this will keep up with any other rides I'd go on, I would think. It certainly pulls all the way up to 100 really, really easily, and I mean, we won't go into anything beyond that, but yeah, no, it'll keep up, which is, I think that's an important thing to take into account, because nobody likes being the slow guy. Oh, Blue Swift. Good man. Shit, what are we talking about? So, useful information. This weighs somewhere in the vicinity of 220 to 230 kilos, which is quite light, and it definitely feels very light. The fuel tank is under the seat, and it actually sits just in front of the back wheel, which makes it a very low center of gravity, which means that this is very, very tippy, and it's nice because you can just tip it in everywhere, and it feels very light and easy to ride. I gotta say also, the way that they've made it look a little bit retro with that badge, I think that's cool. I think there's a lot of nice little touches on this where they've definitely paid attention to where they've come from, which is, I think, incredibly important. But they're making something now that is, I guess, current and up to date, and yeah, taking advantage of all the new technologies. Enough, fuck it. Let's go around Takapuna one more time. Hello. Actually, do you know what I want to do? In terms of my ergonomics, I'm not bad. I'm definitely finding where I've got what feel like sport bike pegs that I want to ride it like a sport bike, and my heel is touching the exhaust a little bit. Partly because clown feet, partly because maybe I should just use the arch of my foot. Well, that has no problem getting up and going. For a 975 cruiser, that's actually really good because it's not unmanageable and it doesn't feel scary and it doesn't feel like it's going to rip your arms off. The way that it delivers that power, it just rolls it on. It kind of rolls it on for you, which, you know, as a purist, do I like that? No. As an appeal to someone who wants the computer to do some of the hard work for you? Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've got to say, that is a pretty damn cool bike. It definitely looks the part, it definitely goes really well, and taking advantage of all of the modern things that are coming on these bikes, I think that this is a really, really nice balance between keeping things traditional Harley, yet keeping up with the times and making a bike that's really safe, really efficient, and incredibly easy to ride. Like, this could be a perfect bike for, say, the wife, if you're sick of her being on the back, which, trust me, I understand, or, you know, your kid's first bike, whatever it is. I think this is a really, really, really cool option. 975 Rev Max engine, $27,000. And well, just come down and see the good people here at North Auckland Harley Davidson. Thanks Mike and Greg for letting me take this for a home, and we will see you for the next bike, which I don't know what that is, but we'll do it anyways.